Welcome back to the Player First podcast. I am Coach Fernando here with Tiempo Soccer in New York, USA, and we got Coach Leo here as well from the Football Domain Academy out in London, UK. And if you guys noticed, I introduced our name of our official podcast. So we decided on the Player First podcast. And Coach Leo, you're going to tell us a little bit about why we went with that.
Yeah, so great introduction, Coach Fernando. First of all, I want to begin by saying I apologize if you can't hear me properly, but I bit my tongue a couple of days ago, and it's really hurting.
Oh, man.
I know, it happens. So just be careful you don't bite your tongue. So I'll do my best to make this this podcast that you can understand me. But yeah, going back to your.
I thought it was the hot pizza.
Oh. It was probably a combination of both, yeah. So, yeah, going back to what you just mentioned, Player First. Now, it took us a while to come up with a name. We really wanted something that sort of resonated with what we believed in. And this podcast is all about putting the player first. So, completely player focused. And educating parents on how to make their child better, and also players who watch it as well. So we thought that the Player First name really fits well with the podcast and what we are trying to do, which is to reach over 1 million kids worldwide. So we were very creative and here we are. Second episode, and we have our brand new name, Player First.
Yes, I love it. Exactly. I think Coach Leo sums it up perfectly. We're here just to help the club players around the world. So what better name than Player First, right? Literally putting the players first in all that we do here. Yeah. And today, specifically, we wanted to talk about training on your own. So if you're a club player, training on your own and what that means and how we can do that. And, I think the first thing when I think of training on your own is I think oftentimes players struggle with knowing even what to do on their own, right? Yeah. Players sometimes don't even know, what they should be working on, how they should be doing it, when they should be doing it, and et cetera, et cetera. And because they maybe overthink it sometimes, they end up not doing anything.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah.
And so I think one of the ways we can solve that issue of not knowing what to do is really just simplifying things. Mm-hmm. Coach Leo, what are your thoughts on that when I say, training on your own, first of all?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I'm going to touch on a personal experience and an example as well is when I go to the gym. Like there's days where I'm really motivated because I know what I'm going to do at the gym. But there's other days where I arrive there and I've got no idea what I'm doing. Now, the days where I arrive and I'm like, I don't know what to do, are the days where I probably spend about 20 minutes and then I leave. Just because I sort of go into boredom.
Right.
So something we are going to touch on today is how do you make your sessions more structured, and also how do you vary the activities you're doing so that you are being motivated, you are being disciplined, and also it's a case of looking forward to training, right? It shouldn't be seen as like a chore you have to do. It should be seen as something you enjoy doing,
right?
Because that's really then going to complement your team training.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And so we're going to touch on that. And even before we get there, though, I think the first thing that we should touch on is really the importance of even training on your own, right? So, like, I think a lot of kids, especially here in the US and where I am, they are very, very highly dependent on their team trainings, right? They're very highly dependent on when a coach is there with them and when their team is there with them. And oftentimes they don't get that extra training session on their own that can really make a difference if they're doing it consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when we talk about training on your own, you really have to understand it could be a big difference between a good player and a great player, right? It can take you from one level to the next if you're being consistent about your training. Because if you want to ever reach a higher level, no matter what level you're currently at, you always have to do something more than everybody else, or different than everybody else, or a combination, right? You want to be more and different, preferably, right? And one of the ways you can do more or be different than your teammates is by training on your own, right? So I think there's a big benefit here that players sometimes miss out on when it comes to training on their own. But I think it's because they don't really know the benefits that they get from training on their own. The way they can stand out once they go back to their team trainings. They'll see the difference in their game, you know? What do you find is important, I guess, with training on your own with your players?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think that, you know, when you train on your own or when you train with a personal trainer, you get to work on certain aspects technically of the game where in a team environment you can't. It's impossible. Just because one, the amount of players you have within the group, and also the coach is not going to give you attention.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a lot of other things going on. He's got maybe 12 other players he has to control, manage. He's also got a plan, one part of the session to the next. So there's a lot that goes on. So if you really want to improve on your technical ability, then training by yourself or even with a personal trainer,
right,
will really help and really benefit you, because there'll be certain things that, as I mentioned, your team coach or your club coach can't help you with during a session. He won't give you that personal attention than maybe your personal trainer, or when you train by yourself, you can.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's 100% true.
It's fundamental.
You know, yeah, exactly. I've trained with teams, and that's one of the reasons why I ended up going in the direction that I'm in now with one-on-ones and small groups. Because in a team session, it's really, really hard to give that individual attention to the players that really need it, right? Either they're just really committed and they want to get better, or they just need that extra help to get them to the next level, right? Whatever the case may be, you can't really get that from a team training, because like you said, the coach has so much going on, and it's really about the team. It's not necessarily about one individual.
Exactly. It's more team focused rather than player focused.
Yes, that's 100% right. So I think the benefits are massive with training on your own. I think there's no way to get around the benefits of training on your own. They're evident, right?
Yeah.
Now, with that said, so now we know we need to train on our own.
Yeah.
Now, how do we do that? I guess what's some strategies we can do here, Coach Leo? What do you think?
Great question. Number one, as I mentioned previously when I talked about my experience with the gym, is planning your sessions, right? The more you get into a habit of planning what you're going to do at the field when you get there, the more likely you are to follow through, and the more you are to enjoy what you're doing. Because like I said, it shouldn't be seen as a chore. It should be seen as something that is part of your team training.
Right.
It's like an extra that you do by yourself, and you hold yourself accountable to it. So planning is fundamental, but planning the actual session, not planning what time you're going to go to the field, but actually planning what you're going to do. So how long you're going to train for, what are the different stages of the session that you're going to be doing, so that you have a warm up, a cool down, and the actual main activity. So it feels as though you're actually training with your team, but you're not. You're training by yourself, and you're giving yourself that focus. So that would be my number one, shall we say, strategy, or something that's really going to help you, is to plan your sessions.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the second one?
Yeah. So I think that's a good point. Just to recap that, being able to plan is such a big part of knowing what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Because like Coach Leo says, when you go to the gym, when he goes to the gym, you know, he doesn't know, if he doesn't know what he's doing, right? We could see those big muscles on him. If he doesn't know what he's doing, he's going to be less motivated. He's going to go to the gym and maybe do one thing and then probably leave because he has no idea what he's doing. Right. You know, so.
Yeah. And also with technology now, and we got access to the internet wherever we go almost, you know, there's no excuses. You can find sessions to do by yourself. You know, you can find
100%.
things to do to mix your sessions up so it's not boring and repetitive. You know, there's nothing wrong with repetitive, but I think the more you mix things up, the more it will like stimulate you and motivate you to keep going.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that comes to I guess the next strategy, right? Being able to not keep, like you said, vary the sessions, right? Mm-hmm. Make sure you have a focus to each session. So not only plan what you're going to do, but make sure you know exactly what you're going to work on.
Yeah.
And then vary it every week. Work on something new, a new aspect of your game. You know, whether it be your striking and your finishing. Maybe you want to work on your first touch and your passing the next week. And then after that, you want to work on your dribbling and your speed. You know, whatever it is, vary the sessions week to week. Don't always just try to stick to the same thing, because you will get kind of bored of that, right? And it'll become more of like a chore, like how you said, Coach Leo, it'll become more of something like you don't really want to do. And we don't want that to be the case, right? Because if you're going to see the benefit, it has to be something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So I think one of the ways you can enjoy the training as well is to vary the sessions, is to change it up week to week. Mm-hmm. So I think being able to plan the session, know what your focus is, and then week to week you can adjust, or every 2 weeks or every month, or however you want to do it, but being able to adjust your sessions to keep it fun and fresh, mm-hmm. I think is another important aspect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 100%. And also touching on the planning bit, know when in the day you're going to be going to train. So, you know, I think everyone has at some point during the day, they're a high point where they're more energized to do exercise, whether that be first thing in the morning, whether that be in the afternoon, or whether that be in the evening. You know, I think everyone knows when their body is up for it, shall we say.
Right.
So it's also not only just planning your session, but planning when in the day you're going to be going, so that you have that energy to actually put 100% into your own session.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the other thing that you got to know about yourself, right? Know when it is that you're actually going to go through with it too, right? When works best for your schedule. So planning exactly tomorrow at what time or around what time is usually best for you, right? And personally, what I would advise is to always try, if possible, if it's what you prefer, do it first thing in the morning, or at least earlier in the day, as early in the day as you can, because sometimes what can happen is if you plan it for a little bit later in the day, sometimes depending on how your day goes, you may not be able to get to that training session because maybe something came up, right? Or you know, a distraction happened, or you know, your friends came over or called you to go somewhere and you sort of ditched your training session, right? But if you can put it earlier on in your day and you make it a focus, a priority, and you're able to do that earlier on, that way you get it out of the way, then you can go on and enjoy the rest of your day, right? So I think it becomes easier to go through with your sessions if you have it earlier on in your day as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember when I was at school, so when I'd get to school first thing in the morning, between the hours of about, I'd say 8 to maybe 11, I was always switched on
Mm.
because I'd woken up, I've had breakfast, it's early in the morning, usually everyone else is calm, so I'm focused.
Right.
After lunch, I was done. Like, I could sit in a classroom and I wouldn't learn anything.
Right.
Because maybe I was eating poorly during lunch. So I was eating meals that were maybe too heavy for me. So then when I'd sit down, I'd fall asleep in class.
Right. Coach Leo, sleep on the desk.
Yeah, big panda.
Yeah.
So I started to know my body, and I knew that, right, my best production was in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I find the same. I try to do any of my physical activity early on in the day. I like to wake up and do my workouts because I find that I'm much more I feel much more accomplished too.
Yeah.
Once I get it done early on, I feel like, okay, I've accomplished something. If everything else goes bad the rest of the day, at least I can say I got my session in, or I got my workout in, or whatever it is. So you feel some sense of accomplishment. And I think that also starts to build momentum throughout your day. So if you've accomplished something really early in your day, that can go into the next thing and the next thing. And you might find that your days become a little more productive throughout the rest of your day as well. So I highly, highly suggest doing the best you can to plan it earlier on in your day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, what are some challenges that even, so let's just say they plan their training session.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to vary it week to week. They're going to do it earlier on in the day. But what are some maybe things that can still, I guess, kind of go wrong or not work out?
Great question. I think thinking about myself when I was younger, the biggest issue, or should we say obstacle, I had was never motivation, because I was always motivated to go and play football. I always wanted to be outside.
Right.
But it was just distractions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So distractions can come in the sense of, your parents stopping you, maybe your brother or sister, your friends, the console.
Yeah.
So you said, "Oh, I'm only gonna play for 30 minutes," and then you end up playing for like 4 hours.
Right. Right. FIFA all day.
Oh man! Even though that is fun, but it's not going to help you on the field.
Right.
So as a kid, that was my sort of, shall we say, obstacles and things that prevented me from actually going out and training by myself. I was motivated. I wanted to do it. I was keen, but I was easily distracted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think nowadays that's even more of a concern for kids, right? Because they got all the technology, their phones, their iPads, computer, whatever,
Yeah.
their PlayStations, so I think that's even more of a thing where they're constantly being distracted, right? By their friends, getting messages, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a tough one to overcome, but I think you have to be able to prioritize that and just, I don't want to say like willpower through it, but you have to understand that that's just a part of your schedule. Like make it a habit, and it becomes easier the more you do it.
Mm-hmm.
At first it might be a little difficult, but try to think of it like as a part of your routine, right? Make it a part of what you do, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower or whatever it is. Make it a part of your routine and make it a normal type of thing within your routine. So that way, even when distractions come up, you already are committed because you have to do this, right? This is just something you do. And that comes with time, though. That doesn't happen right away, but it's about thinking about it like a routine, like a schedule. Like, this is just something I do. Like, you go to school, if distractions come up, you still have to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with your training session, right? If distractions come up, well, I still have to go to my training session, and then I'll deal with whatever later on.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that to make it more enjoyable as well, if you can find like an accountability partner, so someone to actually do it with,
Yeah.
then you motivate each other. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it takes another person to actually get you to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other part of it, surrounding yourself with other teammates or friends or even family that will help you out, or willing to help you out and support you, and go out to the field with you. I think that definitely helps. That's a really big point, I think.
Yeah. But it has to be the right teammate. It can't just be anyone. It has to be a teammate that actually thinks the same as you and actually wants the same thing.
Yep.
Wants to get better, wants to improve on his technical ability, actually wants to become a better player.
Right.
So then it turns into a sort of competitive development rather than just let's go and kick a ball in the park.
Right. 100%. 100% agreed. And that's something that I've tried to push to all my players here is, go out and train on your own, but don't be afraid to text each other. Like, who's serious about getting better. Text one of your teammates and go out to the park with them. And even, like, I try to not tell them, you don't always have to make it so. I know we're talking about planning your session and kind of structuring it, but sometimes it doesn't have to be that way either, right? It doesn't have to be so structured and so planned out. It can be a little more spontaneous and free play, if you go with the right teammates, right? If you go with someone who is, thinking like you, that wants to get better, wants to improve, take a teammate and go out to the field and just work on your shooting, right? Shoot on each other, work on free kicks, whatever it is. But being able to just go out and have fun with it every once in a while and not plan it out too, sometimes that's okay too. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to just go out on the field, text your buddy, hey, tomorrow let's go work on free kicks. Mm-hmm. And you just go. It becomes a lot easier, a lot more fun that way too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And the more fun it becomes, the more you want to do it more.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think so you might be listening to this, especially if you're a player, and you might be like thinking, well, I'm not really all that motivated to train on my own. Right? And that's okay, right? That's totally okay, because there are different, I guess, phases of development, different levels of players. And it's totally okay if you're not the type that's like highly motivated to go out and train on your own yet. Mm-hmm. I think that motivation, it comes in time, and it comes with falling in love with the game, comes with developing that passion. So if you're maybe a younger player and you don't have that motivation yet, that's okay. Just worry about keep on training, keep on going with your team, and find a way to keep loving the game. Mm-hmm. And one day you might find yourself being motivated to practice on your own anyway. Yeah. So I think if you're watching this and you're not that type of player yet, that's totally okay. That doesn't have to be you right now. Mm-hmm. But one day, if you want to become that better player, this is something you probably want to do, right? Train on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a good thing you touched on that, because it's true. It's true. It depends on your situation. It depends on what level you're playing at.
Right.
I know that the older I got, the more I wanted to train by myself. When I was younger, maybe 11, 12, it was more about just playing with my friends.
Right.
So I saw it more as a fun thing.
Right.
But as you start progressing in the game, it's the same with life, right? Once you start getting older, you get more responsibility. Then you've got to try and figure things out. And football, soccer is exactly the same. As you get older and as you get more competitive in the game, then you will find a need, if you're serious, to go out and continue training.
Right.
Because
That's 100%.
your team training won't be, shall we say, it won't be as satisfactory as you going out and putting in the work. So you won't be fulfilled just with your team training, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. And I think that's, that's a good point. When you're 10, 11, 12 years old, it's not the end all be all to train on your own. It's totally okay to just go out and have fun and enjoy the game, right? Because that's the basis for everything. Like, you're not going to go out and train on your own if you don't love the game, right? So if you've never established that love, that passion, what we're talking about right now today, it means nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want players to see this and get discouraged that they're not training on their own or whatever. It's totally okay. Keep training, keep having fun. But one day if you do develop that more, that motivation to get better, you will find yourself wanting to go out and train on your own to get better. And that's when planning your sessions and going out and training with a teammate that's serious too, that's when that stuff will really help you.
Yeah. 100%. Agree.
Yeah.
Sounds
cool. Any other thoughts as we start wrapping up our second episode, besides your new haircut over there?
Oh man,
what happened with that hair over there?
I'll tell you a little story. So if you guys are watching and you don't know me yet, so I'm a huge Arsenal fan. So being based here in London, my favorite team as a boy was Arsenal.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, I'm done. It's something that I've accepted now. It's so bad that you just have to accept being bad.
Oh man, that's terrible.
So basically, a couple of weeks ago, if not a week and a half ago, Arsenal played their most hated rivals, which is Tottenham.
Right.
And I had a little bet with one of my closest friends who's a big Tottenham fan. So he said, right, the loser, because at the time we both had really long hair because, the lockdown, we didn't really have our hair.
Well, you can watch episode 1, right?
Barbers here in the UK haven't opened up yet. So.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go.
Well, they have now, but not in episode 1.
Oh, gotcha.
So we had an agreement. We said, right, the loser has to shave his hair off, and then the winner has to shave that person's hair. So you can tell who won.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great bet. That's fun. That's fun. Well, not fun for you. Fun for him.
I mean, do you know what? Looking back at it now, I got a free haircut. I didn't even have to do anything. I didn't have to move out my chair.
That's true.
He'd done the whole work. So I think I was the winner at the end.
And you were in need of a haircut anyway, so it worked out.
Exactly.
It worked out. All right, cool. So, I mean, guys, when it comes to training on your own, I think the important things, if you are that serious motivated type of player, is about figuring out something that you want to work on for one session. Just pick one thing, one topic, then plan your session around that, right? Find something that will help improve that one thing you want to work on. Just say let's just give an example. It's your weak foot. You want to improve your weak foot striking. That's simple, right? You find an activity that you can work on your striking and you do it with your weak foot. And you make that the focus, and then you plan. All right, I'm going to do this on Saturday at 10 a.m., right? And then you just go on and do it.
That's
okay. And then if you want to, what you can do to keep it, I guess, not the same, not repetitive, is we can vary it, right? Look, Coach Leo?
Exactly. Now, I've got to stop you there because I don't say a weak foot. I say less dominant foot.
Less dominant. I like that. Less dominant. All right. Well, less dominant. Syntax, whatever. Awesome. All right. I like
Because
it.
when you think of weak, it's like you're going to tell the whole world, oh, I'm weak now.
I got it. It's the way you think about it. I got it.
So less dominant means I need a bit more work to do to make it dominant.
It's about how you think about it. Smart man. Smart man. That's 100% right. I like that.
That's why I lost my hair.
Yeah.
All that thinking.
Too much brain cells. It needed room. They needed to get the hair off. I got it.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
But no, good advice. Definitely. And if you want to get better, if you want to improve and develop, you just have to take self-responsibility and not just depend on your team training. Which is something even though our academy here is sort of based around team training, I always still encourage my players to train by themselves. And I'm still a believer that personal training is much better than team training.
Yeah, 100%. I think everyone, if you want to get better, you need that time on your own. There's no doubting that, right? There's no doubting that you need that time by yourself to get better.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
If you guys have any comments, or if you guys want us to discuss something very specific, you can leave it in the comments section.
Yeah.
And also you can, if you want to connect with us, we'll leave our social media on the post or on the video here. Yeah. So you guys can connect with us directly there too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, leave us questions. We like reading questions. We like helping. So sharing our knowledge. And hopefully by next episode, my tongue would have recovered.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a little bit better. You don't have that issue.
But yeah, good stuff. So,
all right, man. All right. That's it for this episode, guys. Train on your own. Get better. We're here to help you guys, to help reach 1 million players across the world. So again, let us know if you guys have any comments or questions, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
All right. Have a great weekend, Fernando, and I'll see you next week.
You too.